Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your host, Greg, the single guy, and Matt, the family guy. We're recording episodes from around the globe to tell you about the best kept secret in education. That's right, it's teaching overseas. We're glad to have you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night, ladies and gentlemen. This is the International Teacher Podcast. I am Matt, the family guy, and with me as always is...
Greg, the single guy, and...
Kent, the cat guy.
Oh my God, Matt, it's three of us this time. This is the first initial one, Matt, with Kent.
The listeners are in for a treat. You're going to be able to hear our first threesome together, and it will not disappoint. I'll just say
I'm
that right
a little nervous. This is my first threesome, so you guys treat me gently.
I'm nervous talking about it that way. I think the listeners need to understand we're all in different buildings right now.
Here's me. You know, just go with it and let's read off each other's cues, guys. It'll turn out great. 100%. Today, it's this is the first time we've actually all been on here at once because of life always going on with the three of us. There's always something going on. So Kent has been amazing, and all the episodes he's stepped in. And when I've managed to be awake to record one, I've jumped in too. And Greg's been the stalwart of the whole operation. So some of the things we're going to talk about today is our birthday. And Greg, we and Kent, we are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of the International Teacher Podcast. This is a big deal.
It's a huge
what do you guys
deal.
think of that?
April 2nd was, well, we're recording a little bit later, but April 2nd, we rolled out our very first one. We had no idea what podcasting was even about back then.
And we've had, how many countries now have we managed to leak into?
Oh, let me look that up while you guys chat about something else. I'll do a quick look here on the computer.
Okay. Kent, and when I think about the number of downloads we have, we've actually hit the thousands. We are up over the 5,000 mark, I believe, at this point, which...
Correct.
For a few guys with just a few minor tech tools and a dream is a lot to go on.
And you know who we have to thank for that, though, Matt? Our listeners and my mom.
Absolutely. All the people out there that have actually gave us regular listening, have given us a lot of good feedback. And what a cool experience. I can honestly say I didn't think we'd ever do something like this.
First of all, happy birthday to the podcast. It's lovely. I've enjoyed being a part of it. I'm happy to be here today. And I'd like to thank all of the listeners, and particularly the ones that have reached out and said a few words to us, well, except for a couple that have reached out and said a few things to us. But aside from that, I'd like to say we've even had a few listeners join us on the podcast. So it's been a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a chance to talk to multiple teachers. We've had a chance to interview an author. Greg and Kent, you guys have interviewed another author besides Andrew, correct?
Did we?
Well, I'm an author, Matt. I mean,
I was going to say we're celebrating an author right now.
Greg, did you say you're an author? What do you mean? You want to tell us about? Wait a minute. What a year. So you've not only launched and partaken in a successful podcast, but now you're a published author. Was that what you were trying to say?
Well, of course I am. Yes. No, I have that book out, and you know what? The really cool thing is I still don't know how many books I've sold. I think my mom's the only one that's bought a book besides Kent. Kent actually bought a book, but he hasn't written a review yet. It's called Finding the Right Fit, and then there's a subtitle in there. I forgot what it was, but it's a really nice book. It's on Amazon. Anybody can find it. Google my name, whatever, and you'll come up with International Teacher Podcast, but you'll also come up with that book, and I can't wait for people to read it, but I won't find out for another month or so. Actually, another month or so. It should be, the print one comes out on April 15th from Amazon, so it's a good time that we're talking about it now. So it's, but we also had the other author, right? Our Millionaire Expat episode was the one you were talking about, Matt, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, it's good that you put in a shameless plug for your book because we want people to check it out.
Yeah, I don't really like to talk a lot about myself and about things that I've done. I just wanted to sell at least more than just my mom and, of course, Kent. So what'd you think of the book, Kent?
I love the book. Whether you're a first-year teacher or a 20-year international teacher, this book is going to have something in it for you. I've enjoyed it, and I am going to review it for Amazon and tell everyone what a great book it is.
Didn't I include
Greg,
a story about Matt? I think I included some stories about Matt in there, right? About the sinking boat, or was that was a different one? Maybe I didn't. Matt, I'm not sure if I included you in my book. I have to admit
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not offended in the least.
Okay.
Definitely not.
You'll be in the second book.
I will be reading and ordering the book. It's just I cannot stand reading on Kindle, so that will be waiting for me when I get to the cabin this summer.
No, you get a signed copy waiting for you when you get home that summer. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, you and Kent both, along with my mom. Right. She already stole one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hit that bookstore. It's the right fit. A Cinderella story of finding a school that works for you.
And by the way, that Cinderella story includes 4,937 hits on our podcast. So people keep listening. Pass on this podcast to your friends. I know we've already hit 85 countries, Matt and Kent. 85 listener countries so far.
And doing so, the life you save could be your own. So please, share.
Is there a like button? If there's a like button for podcasts, hit the like button. Do it now. Hit the like button.
I don't think there is, Kent. I think that's like something else. Is there a heart?
Oh, on Spotify. No, I think Kent is right, but it's a heart. It's a heart.
It's a heart. Hit the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Or follow. Absolutely.
And follow us on the podcatcher.
Yeah, we can build an army here, and then we can make a difference.
So, okay, I got to jump into a question about this whole podcasting thing. And Kent or Greg, I'll let either of you take this. What has been something that's really surprised you about the whole process from when you first jumped in to where we are now? What's something maybe that surprised you or you didn't expect when it comes to podcast or podcasting?
Oh, well, I'll jump in real fast. I'll say the number of coworkers and friends and people from all around the place saying, you podcast, tell me more about that. People are interested. Many of our coworkers have become listeners or subscribers. And I would say the level of interest of people who have come across our podcast has been pleasantly surprising.
Well, I'll just jump in with that. I think it's all the listeners, Matt. I mean, I remember when we had 20 downloads. I can't forget that. It was like the first 2 weeks, I think we had it up because nobody knew we were there. In fact, I think we published 2 or 3 episodes within the first 2 weeks just because we recorded a couple. We recorded each other. Remember that, Matt? I interviewed you interviewed me, and we had the intro one. And I think part of it is the amount of listeners that we have now that are starting to filter back and give us, shout outs back or, asking to be on the show, which I hope more people do. And can I read one response that I just got? Yes, we just got yesterday. Can I read this on for you guys?
Yeah, because we love it when people actually take the time to write. It's awesome.
Yeah, this is from Laura. She said, I listened to your podcast, took the jump, and now signed up to teach at Colegio Maya in Guatemala City next year. This woman is going to Guatemala, and I think we had something to do with it, according to her. And she's asking us to do more about recruiting and what happens after you land the job. But you know what, Matt and Kent, I think she has to be on the show. So Laura, you don't have a choice. You're going to have to reach out. I'm going to be emailing you back and forth all the time, asking you to come on our show so we can ask her the question. I mean, she can ask us the questions and we can give some good answers or find out some answers from other people, right?
Yeah, the questions she laid out were awesome because just how organic they were. And a lot of it was just about, okay, I got the job, but there's this whole nother kind of in limbo preparatory period that for some people can be extremely stressful. And because if this is a new experience, you have no idea what you've just gotten yourself into. And for the most part, it's all going to go great no matter what, or at least you're going to have some great stories and some good life lessons to learn from it. So either way, you're playing with house money at this point.
True.
But
I'll tell you.
I never considered to talk about those things.
Yeah, I think it's a whole nother podcast, and I'm not going to let Kent talk. It's just a whole nother podcast that we need to get Laura in there. And, even if she doesn't want to be on the show, we will go over those things for her. But I think it would be much more exciting to have a guest on the show to ask us those pertinent questions. She has probably more, too, right? We can call in and answer all those questions. Kent, I'm sorry. Go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
I was just going to say, boys, you never forget your first time. I'll tell you what, I loved that letter that Laura wrote to us because it is full of all of the emotions that you feel when you get that first overseas job, that international teaching job. It's like being on cloud 9. Now, at some point, you come down from the cloud, but that feeling of I'll be going to some place which I have no idea what's going to happen, but the elation that goes with it, I couldn't be more excited. And it's listeners and people who write in like that really I feel is the lifeblood of a podcast like this.
So so Laura, kudos to you. Thank you for writing, and thank you for calling our attention to those limbo details. And for those of you that are out there listening and you're still thinking about taking that jump, do it.
Absolutely. And you know what? Every guest that we have, when we ask them, is there any final things you want to say? A lot of them say, jump right in and do it. Don't think twice. Don't overthink it. Take that leap off the edge and do it. You won't regret it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we hope you won't regret it. Greg, we might want to seek legal counsel on that last comment, Greg.
We need some legal counsel. I might have to see a psychiatrist or something about that last one. Yeah, exactly.
We here at the International
With all the
Teacher
police
Podcast.
stories, I would imagine we've got a few lawyers on speed dial.
We can't afford them yet because we have to have like 10,000 downloads before we make 10 cents.
So if you're a lawyer and you're hearing this and you need a shout out, let us know. We'll be glad to add you as a ad hoc sponsor.
And we'll be your first clients.
Yes.
Matt, you're all about advertising, aren't you? I love it. I have one more thing to add too, Matt. I wanted to add one more thing. The other part of the listeners and the other thing that has wowed me in this last year is I never listened to podcasts before we started doing this. And I have to be honest with you, until Kent came up to me one day and said, how do you do podcasting? And we got into it, and you and I had the idea. And magically, we just went on and started podcasting. But what I'm really amazed about is that I have been listening to a lot more podcasting. Kent did before this, but I started to actually listen in on podcasts, and I've been a guest on like at least 10 different podcasts that have nothing to do with ITP. And I've really reached out. Yes. And I've been going out.
Wow.
I told Kent about this. There's a guy in the United States that does a podcast called Crying in My Car. And it's for teachers, right? It's like that teacher that goes out at lunchtime and sits in their car and cries because they've had it, right? And the guy's a great comedian, and he's actually quit teaching, and he's mainly a comedian now and does all this stand-up, but he's got a great podcast. It's very popular, and I reached out to him just out of the blue, like a cold call, saying, man, I'd love to be on your show. I don't know if people know about international teaching or not. And it worked out really well. So I had a nice short episode with him, and like I said, about 10 different episodes on 10 different podcasts, especially in the States. So I've been trying to beef up our presence by being on other podcasts. And it's been a lot of fun.
You know what? I'd like to add that to my bucket list. I'd love to be on a podcast. I know that probably sounds vain as all get out, but I think it'd be cool. But the only thing is I have nothing discernible or intelligent to say. So that kind of disqualifies me from it. So maybe my lifetime goal will be to come up with something that would be interesting enough to be shared on a podcast.
Oh,
not
Kent, listen
the
to
International
this.
Teacher Podcast.
Listen to this guy. This family guy knows more about sports and especially baseball than anybody I've ever met in my life. He can watch a commercial and he can tell you the name of every person sitting there on the bench, whether it's baseball or women's like broom ball or something like that, or it could be Olympic knitting. He would still know exactly who's sitting there on the bench as well as the people out on the field. He could talk about any podcast.
Now that you mentioned bench, Matt, I got to tell you, this is totally off topic.
Sure.
Feel free to cut it out. My dream job, I have 2 dream jobs, Matt. One of them is third string catcher, and the other one is bench coach. Because no matter what happens in the game, nobody ever says, we were going to win that game until that bench coach messed up. Nobody ever says it's a perfect job.
Why do benches need coaches, Kent? You're just looking at the bench going, I want you to stay there. I need more wood. I need more wood. All right. Sit there. Sit bench. Don't get up. I don't get it. Why do benches need a coach?
You know, the first base coach can get blamed, the third base coach, but nobody ever blames a bench coach, do they? Do they, Matt?
Actually, when the manager gets ejected, like, for example, from a beanball and everybody gets out and fights on the field and then the manager gets thrown out, then the bench coach takes over. So technically, you're not totally in the clear just yet.
It's like Hoosiers, though, where the guy comes in and he's shaking. You know, he doesn't know what he's going to do.
Is there a bench coach in every sport? I mean, like swimming, is there a bench coach?
I'm probably going to go with yes.
Really?
I tell you what, think of any organization you've ever been a part of and ask yourself, did we have excessive administration as a part of our organization? And if the answer was yes, it probably applies from anywhere in the business world to the sporting world too. Heck,
Kent.
you've even got people on a football field that have to hold the head coach back because he doesn't care enough to look down at the lines by his feet. Okay. There's just some things I won't do in life, and that job is one of them. And if you're one of those people, we love you here at the International Teacher Podcast. But I mean, come on. So,
and listen, Kent, this is the guy that's talking. Here's Matt, the family guy, talking about being on someone else's podcast, and yet this guy could talk to anybody about any sport, anytime, and he knows more than anybody else I know about these sports. So don't get me started, Matt. I'll find you a podcast by tomorrow.
I was going to say, if you're a podcaster and you're listening to this, reach out to us and invite Matt on.
Yeah, and I can talk about stuff other than sports. I might not have hair, but I can do hair. I can talk hair products. You name
Jimmy
it.
Buffett.
Yes, in all 3 songs, according to Kent.
I believe doesn't he have an album called The Greatest Hit?
See, ladies and gentlemen, our listeners need to know
songs
this.
you know by heart, Kent. Songs you know by heart.
Matt, the family guy, and I, Greg, the single guy, we have one thing especially in common besides our birthday on June 15th, but we also love Buffett. We are distinct Buffett fans. And Kent came on before the show, and he told us he was trying to talk about Jimmy Buffett being some billionaire and the fact he only has like 2 songs out. And we're about ready to reach through the camera and punch him. Both of us we were floored by this comment. And I tell you, Kent, you're not going to be on this podcast anymore if you do any more of that.
Now, this is going to be your only and last threesome if this keeps up.
Oh, my first threesome is my last. Oh, it went so wrong.
Well, it was a little rough. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, we would be the first time.
I got another question then. So looking ahead to the next year.
Hey, Matt,
what would you guys like?
No, Matt, you got to answer the question. You have to answer your own question.
Oh, yeah.
We're waiting for your answer. What have you noticed, or what have you learned, or what's really wowed you over the last year of doing this podcast?
This is going to sound silly, but just the fact that people actually listened. I was just like, oh, yeah, we'll do it. It'll be fun. And it's like a cute kindergarten art project. And you're like, oh, what the heck is that? And like, for example, I got an email from a buddy I grew up with. I haven't talked to this guy in maybe a couple of decades. And I got a random Facebook message from him on how he was on a cross-country car trip and he had listened to like 7 consecutive episodes. And I was like, dear God, what mental space are you in right now where you listen to me and Greg and Kent talk for 7 straight hours?
Was he held at gunpoint or something? I mean, seriously.
Must have been court ordered.
Well, I just was, I'm really thankful for that. Because it was awesome feedback, but it was at that point where I was like, oh my God, people are actually listening to this.
Perhaps we're entertaining, not just full of information for people that want to go overseas, or maybe we're just entertaining to people that are sitting back in the States going on a long trip.
Yeah. You know what? There's one other thing too that shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Hold on a second. Just bear with me for a moment. I just had a momentary brain shutdown. There was another thing that surprised me in terms of the podcast was I didn't think people would be as interested in it. Okay, so maybe it's because we're teachers or whatever, and it comes with the territory. Like, I don't want to flaunt things or boast about things or be considered a braggart. That's like one of my worst things ever. And so anytime the podcast has been mentioned, sorry, Greg and Kent, it hasn't been for me. And then all of a sudden people were like, well, Matt, you have a podcast. Tell them about it. And it was just like, I'm kind of downplay it. And people are like, you have a podcast? Tell us about the podcast. What is it about? And I'm like, you really want to hear about this? Like, wow. And so I guess I've learned I need to do a better job of talking about the work we've done here, because it has been fun. It's been entertaining. And I think people have gotten a lot from it, or they say they have.
Well, that's the thing, is that I've had to learn how to be a little bit more forthcoming about it, and sort of not bragging, but it's more like advertising. It's self-advertising, which I don't, and we talked about that with my book. I don't want to, by the way, I wrote a book. No, I don't want to self-advertise, right? Just joking.
Am I the only one who I walk down the street and I just advertise myself? The Right Fit by Greg Lemoine. Order it on Amazon now. You know, if you turn the spotlight on, I will stand in it until they turn it off, boys.
Absolutely.
You're like the MC at a major festival every morning, Kent. You walk down the hallway and every teacher's like, oh, Kent's here.
You just got to be loud and not leave.
It sounds like your school is the right fit for you.
It is the right fit.
Oh, is that what we're doing now, guys? Is that what we're going to do for now? Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness.
In all seriousness, though, Matt, I have to agree with you. It's not easy to talk about yourself. I don't necessarily like to brag. It feels like bragging, but advertising and talking about the fact, yes, I have a podcast I'm part of, and it's been a group effort without you guys. I mean, all three of us have put a lot into this. It's a commitment to get together. We couldn't get together, the three of us, very easily. It takes a lot, and we all have our lives going on. So I agree with you, Matt. Let's move into your next question, Matt. And I totally threw you off and made you answer your own question, number one.
No.
What was your other thought? What was your next thought, Matt?
Oh, my next thought or my next question?
Okay, yeah, your next question.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to my next thought then. So, because it's okay. One thing I didn't anticipate was in all the jobs all the MLB jobs that I've been applying for, I've started putting the podcast in there, because I tell in the information that I submit for each of the jobs, I want them to get a better idea of maybe my personality and what I might be like. And so I've been putting the podcast into all of my applications too. So there's several major league teams that actually have our podcast information. I have no idea if they've actually listened, and maybe that's why I haven't been hired yet. But anyway, yeah. And it was
we're going to be watching a baseball game, Kent, and they're going to be, the sportscaster's going to be like, yes, and pitching next. No, wait, he's listening to the International Teacher Podcast episode right now. He'll be up in the next inning, hopefully, after he puts down his headphones.
No, actually, they're going to bring in the Venezuelan lefty in the bottom of the eighth with 2 on, because he is the right fit for the situation.
Oh,
the right fit. Greg Lemoine. Order now. Amazon.com.
You guys are assholes. That's so funny. Oh, is that brutal?
Yeah, but we are the right fit though for that. So
hey, so Matt, give us your radio voice now. Okay. Let's be serious. Let's say you're
great.
Yeah, Matt. Let's listen to Matt do a game real quick. Let's do a little episode here from.
Which radio voice do you want to hear? Because we've got like an AM guy who's like 62 and is still doing classic rock.
Oh, I like that one. Or are we
doing like?
Yep.
Or are we doing high octane monster trucks? We'll save you the seat. Like, what are you looking for? Or are you just looking for an announcer?
Monster trucks.
You know, the one I need is the midnight DJ who's just talking into the night. I want the laid back guy or the Dr. Johnny Fever. Give me either one of those.
Or do you need Harry Carey?
Yeah, I used to listen to that guy. And Bob Uecker is my favorite. I love Bob Uecker.
Oh, Bob Uecker, yes.
He's classic.
You just said the magic
words.
Greg,
do you know who Harry Carey is?
I do remember
Chicago
Harry Carey, but
Oh, okay. Hey, everybody. Coming up to bat is number 32. His name is Hector Rodriguez, and he's a designated hitter from Puerto Rico. Come on, Roger. I forgot his name already. Go Cubs.
That's perfect. Oh,
Yeah.
poor Harry Carey. Oh, man.
We're going to get you the job yet, Matt. Just wait till they
I'm
listen
sorry
to
for the
ITP. I
people.
love it.
God, they had to listen to that. I am so sorry. That was brutal. But
That was perfect.
yeah, it was the right fit for the situation.
All
The
right,
Right
do
Fit
Bob
by
Uecker
Greg
next.
Lemoine. Order
Do
now.
Bob Uecker.
I can't do Bob Uecker. I haven't listened to him enough, so I don't know. I'm not sure. But then you got that guy who's like, hey, it's 1:30 in the morning and I've been drinking Red Bull since it was 5 p.m. this time. I'm in the studio by myself and I've played the entire Loverboy collection from 10 p.m. to 12:30.
Love
Coming up at 2
Loverboy.
o'clock, we're going to play an interview with Cher from the some music festival. I don't know which one it is, but this is brought to you by your friends at Bob and Mildred's hometown grocery store. That would be like if I was at 1:30 in the morning just blabbing.
I think it's perfect. Talking into the night.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
to
going to
wax
take you deep into the night.
deep into
This
the night.
is one of those podcasts where the
That needs
teachers
to be your next
overseas
book,
are going to
Greg.
be saying, oh my God, what is going on? Who put these three onto a microphone?
To be fair, it is April in the school year, and we're going to be like this for the next couple of months, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insanity, man.
Oh, you had to bring
Insanity.
up work, didn't you? All right, what's next on the list? What's next about podcasting we're going to talk about
Kill the
next?
buzz. Well, I was just going to talk about what do you guys want to see as we move into year 2? Now that the International Teacher Podcast is going into its first year, we've wrapped that up. What do you want year 2 to look like? What are you going to forecast? What do you want to put out there?
I'm going to make my first prediction. The International Teacher Podcast, featuring Greg Lemoine, will be invited to a recruiting fair to have a panel discussion. That's my prediction.
That's what you want.
I will even pay my own way for that. You guys can get paid for it. I'll pay my own ticket.
I thought you were going
I
to say
love that
something about
prediction.
YouTube or something, Kent.
Well, I am a big fan of YouTube.
Well, you know what, Kent? And it'd be even better if it was like a Renaissance festival too. So we could dress in the regale of that time. That would be amazing. And drink meat and do the podcast. I'm all on board with that. I am not a Renaissance fair kind of guy, but I can't think of a better type of a situation to do that in. It would be the right fit for us.
As opposed to just drink mead watching the game on a Sunday.
Yes.
Seems to fit into the Renaissance Fair.
Yes.
I'm lost.
Absolutely.
Where does the Renaissance Fair fit into this? I've lost track completely of our conversation.
No. Kent was just saying how we're going to be part of a panel and we get invited to do the podcast. And I was like, hopefully it's like a panel at a Renaissance fair.
That's a wonderful idea. I like. Can I? Yes. Let's do Oktoberfest instead of Renaissance, though.
Oh my! Live at Oktoberfest in Germany in September and October.
Yes,
I could make that happen. I think we should do that.
We're going to have to make that the next year's annual birthday party will be at Frühlingsfest or at Oktoberfest, even though it's not a full year away from now. But for our next birthday, I will invite both of you to go with us. Yes.
Well, we have a long weekend actually in September in Oktoberfest. I'm just putting that out there into the
So you're
universe.
saying 72 hours of beer garden.
And only if we have Lederhosen.
I will wear lederhosen around the
if I
camp. I will wear it anywhere.
Yes. I'm down. Yes. And I want a mug with a top on it that you press it and it comes open and then shuts. Yeah, I'm in.
I'm going to go
Kent,
buy
you and I are
Lederhosen
going.
for both of you and coming back in the summertime with Lederhosen to hold you to what you guys just promised.
Yes. And can we play tubas and walk around town? Yes. We are really going off the tracks today, people. So let's go back to the question. So Kent, you are predicting that we're going to get invited to a panel and do a live recording.
I am going to say that we will be invited to a international teacher event to do a live recording of the podcast. That's my prediction for year 2.
That's going to be beautiful and it's going to get ugly. I love it.
That describes the three of us.
My prediction, I'd like to triple our listening downloads. I'd like to triple over the next year, if not quadruple. I'd like it just to expand and just go off the rails and keep going every 2 weeks. I want to make sure we're publishing every 2 weeks, if not more. That would probably be interviews because we don't get together that often, but that's my forecast. Triple or quadruple our listeners.
I like that. I would just like to see us put out a little more content in terms of real life experiences that we do. Like, let's say the three of us end up in September at Oktoberfest. I think that's part of it. People need to see, besides just the teaching, it's all the fun, cool experiences you get to have. And the three of us running around Munich and what did you say, Lederhosen? We call it Lederhosen, where I'm from. But I think when we push out more fun, relatable content like that, I think that would be cool too.
Well, Matt, of course, we have a history of inviting our guests to share police stories, and we always have ourselves. And if we do go to Oktoberfest together, the three of us, there would definitely be a few police stories, I would imagine, especially because of Kent. And
maybe one involving all three of us.
One involving all three of us, of course. Yeah. So I have to agree with hoot and holler on that one. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. We're putting it in the books. So September 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Greg, Kent, and Matt live from Munich.
Germany is one of my favorite countries.
One night only.
Jawohl.
One night only.
Ja, das ist gut, ja. Yeah.
So here's a story for you, Kent, and I just want to share this with you. Over the years, I have had a few times in Germany, and I did study the language for a while. And one time when Matt and his family met me in Germany, when I was in Switzerland, they met me in Germany, and we had a good time together hanging out. In Munich. Yeah, it was awesome. And my favorite part of the story was just that his oldest son totally got into this word for, what was it? It was ambulance. The word for ambulance. Do you know the word for ambulance, Kent, in German?
I do not.
Matt, go ahead.
Well, hold on, Greg. Before you do that, do you know the word for ambulance in Spanish?
I thought it was ambulancia.
Sí, ambulancia.
Yeah, it sounds really romantic.
What's the word for ambulance in German?
Krankenwagen. I'm not kidding you, Kent. It was so much fun because we were walking around in Munich and his son would just like reach out and be like, hey, what's the word for ambulance? He'd be like, Krankenwagen. And people would just be looking and give the old thumbs up and woohoo.
Yeah. Germany was a good time. All right, we need to go back to Germany.
All right.
Count me in.
And anybody that's going out to Germany, I am definitely envious of you. I have interviewed a couple times with German schools, and I thought it was great because I speak the language. I have family there. I have history there. And I was thinking, I'm like, this is me. They're going to hire me. And they put me on top of this pile with 150 other people and never called me back. So I tell you, I have failed with Germany. They don't want me anywhere near their country. I think I did something wrong back in the 80s when I was there, and they're holding it against me. I don't know, Matt. They just won't let me back in there to teach.
We know exactly what you did wrong, but we're not going to say it on the air.
Well, yeah. The Stasi come after me again, right?
So what was there's a famous band that came out of Germany in the late 80s.
I'd have to say David Hasselhoff.
Oh, Scorpions. I think the Scorpions are German.
If you go to Oktoberfest, you'll think that John
Maybe
Denver
Austrian.
is.
But yeah, Hasselhoff was big in Germany. But I think the Scorpions might be from Austria.
No, the Scorpions are definitely
I'll have to look
German.
that one up.
Falco was the other one, you guys. Rock Me Amadeus was big in the 80s.
Oh,
Remember
that's
that?
a German band, Falco?
Yeah, and there was another band. It was, what's-her-face that sang 99 Luftballons, right? Nina, I think her name was.
That classic?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great song.
I'm sure there's listeners out there that are big fans of the 80s. I live in the 80s still in music. I love it.
You got to really hit the bass on that other part, though.
Brings back memories, doesn't? And Rock Me Amadeus, Amadeus. Rock Me Amadeus, Amadeus. Yeah, exactly. Love it, Falco. Yeah.
So, okay. So we talked a little bit about the first birthday and our reflections and looking a year ahead. And what do you guys want to cover next? Do you want to talk about your spring breaks at all and what went on there, or? What do you
Sure,
guys
we
think?
could hit spring break because, as teachers overseas, we all have different kinds of spring breaks. Our Christmas one, we went over our Christmas episode. We weren't all
Sure.
together, but I interviewed each of you we talked about it individually and put them all together into one podcast. Yeah, let's go with the spring break thing. Kent, what did you do for your spring break?
Well, two things. Number one, I drove over to Bahrain, which is only about, 30, 40 minutes away from where we're at here, at least two of us. And Bahrain is labeled as the freest economy in the Middle East, meaning the most diversified and the most the least amount of government control over the economy. And so it's a good time. We went and had a great time. It's very small. It's 26 kilometers by 40-kilometer island. And it originally made its riches through pearls and seafood. And it doesn't have a lot of oil, but now it has mostly tourism. Great, fun little place.
Is Michael Jackson still there? Oh, wait, that's right.
You know what? Michael Jackson was in Bahrain. That's right.
That?
He would go throughout Bahrain, and he was a star. They loved him.
I think it was that time he held the baby over the balcony. He held the baby out, and then
was that Bahrain?
And then he got sent to Bahrain. It was that little island that's right before Bahrain, but it's part of Bahrain, if I'm not mistaken.
The other thing is, I'll be honest, boys, and this is another fact of being a teacher, that I got roped into a little bit of work over the break. Generally, I don't work even on the days I'm supposed to. People who know me will know that. But over the break, I got roped into a few days, and so I did a few days of work and then took a few days in Bahrain. It was a nice break. Had a great time. My wife's and I grand hurrah for the year as she was going back to the United States to take care of some of her business. So, we had a great time.
Bahrain is a good time. I love going there.
The other thing about Bahrain, you guys remember, our listeners might not know or might know that we have a big naval base there. There's a big U.S. naval base.
Oh, there is a naval base.
Bahrain,
that's right.
Right? Maybe not a big U.S. naval base, but there is a presence there, and a lot of the guys you run into are actually from Navy.
That's right. And women, too. A lot of men and women in that base. That's right.
Thank you to the armed forces who are hanging out, doing their thing in Bahrain. We sure appreciate y'all.
Thank you for your service. That's for sure.
I've been lucky enough. I got invited to play in several softball tournaments on the Navy base. Okay. And so once you clear that, security to get in obviously is tight. You have to be on a list. And in order to get on the list will get you into the line. And then once you're on the list to get into the line, then I won't go into the whole process. But anyway, it's tight getting in there. But once you're in, it's just like stepping into the U.S. It's crazy. Whether it be, I used to just love it because they had a Taco Bell. And do you really need another reason to want to get on a U.S. Air Base or Army base or Navy base? But I remember the last tournament I played there, our last game we actually played, this was a Labor Day tournament in the Middle East. So you can imagine what that was like. We had a 9:30 p.m. game, and the heat index was 133 degrees.
Wow.
At night. At night. It was ridiculous. And it was funny. I had my 4-year-old son and he'd been with me the entire day, and he was totally fine. But the guys on the team and I were dying. 133 degrees. But love Bahrain. Bahrain's always a good time.
Well, I'm going to pass on mine, Kent. You had a lot better time than I did. I just went to work. I just stayed, had a staycation basically, and didn't go anywhere. I'm saving up for May when I'm going to go back to the good old Wisconsin for a wedding. But I'm going to pass the buck over to Matt, because I think Matt's got a few stories for us.
We loaded up the old family truckster, and we drove from the U.S. from the U.S. Oh,
that's a long way.
9:30 at night.
That's the new causeway.
Oh, boy. No, we drove there. But anyway, once we got in there, the road opens up and you can drive 160 kilometers an hour and it's a straight shot. So it took us about 9 hours to get there.
Into Dubai?
Yeah, to Dubai. We did the family stuff like Legoland Water Park, which is always a good time. It was just because it was the middle of the week and there was no other people there. Literally, you could go on any ride you want as many times as you wanted. So like, for example, my oldest and I, we went on the roller coaster. And we'd literally get off and we'd run around, go up the steps, right back on before it had been sent out again. We did that like 5-6 times until the kids would get sick of riding that ride. And then we'd go on to the next thing. It was like that the entire day. So imagine going to Legoland with your family and having the place to yourself. There was maybe 50 people there. It was unbelievable. So it was great. It's a good time. Super easy to hang out. And then the second day, my little guy celebrated his 5th birthday. So we I checked off a bucket list item that day. We checked out Ski Dubai. If you've never heard of Ski Dubai or checked out Ski Dubai, it's indoor skiing on actual snow in the Middle East. And it did not disappoint. It's something I'd been wanting to do for probably the last 10, 12 years. And I finally got a chance to do it. And it was 10 times cooler than I thought it would be. So
inside or outside? Inside.
And so we went in and we did this thing. They have penguins in there, obviously because of the snow. And so my little guy loves penguins. It was his 5th birthday. So we spent a lot of extra money, and we got to pet emperor penguins and hang out with them and get our pictures taken with them. And
they have penguins there? I had no idea they have penguins there. Are they in like a little pen? Do they have like a little swimming pool?
They have like this giant penguin area.
Petting zoo and they open penguins.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And so they bring you to this area to sit down, and they just bring the penguins in, and they come waddling in, and they just come and hang out by you.
I'd like to order an emperor, please, and I need one of those Argentinian ones too, one of the cute little ones with the little tuxedo on.
The floofy things on top of the head too. When we got in there, my oldest saw like a melted chunk of ice in Germany, and that's the closest he's been to snow. So I didn't really take into account how excited my kids would be when they stepped in. It's legitimate snow. So you walk in and it's, what did they say? It was -6 degrees inside or something like that.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius. I don't know. So that would be 25 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that.
Just under freezing. Mm-hmm.
I could have worn a sweatshirt. I was and everybody else is bundled up like an Inuit from Alaska.
Yeah.
But and they immediately just went nuts and were rolling in it and tackling each other in it and snowballs. And I'm like, God, you guys are going to get us kicked out. We haven't even been in here 30 seconds. And you have the people that work there like, no throwing the snow and then the guy gets drilled by 6 snowballs and they just went nuts. It was unbelievable. It was so much fun. And so you just think, what kind of a ski hill can you put indoors? They had they had a decent, what would be like a blue beginner's trail that you could ski down. They had a magic carpet, the thing that you sit on and it takes you up for those that are learning. And then they actually had an expert run too, which it just was unbelievable.
What kind of lifts do they have, Matt? Is there like the couple rope runs? Is it just the burn rope? And then they have a T-bar?
They have 2 T-bars that go up the perimeter, on the perimeters, the sides. And then they have a super nice 4-seater that goes up the middle, which is by far the nicest ski lift I've ever been on. It was comfortable. It was padded. You pull this bar down and it was relaxing. It was great. And my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old twins all learned to ski in like minutes. They must be, I don't know if they're ski savants or what, because they grabbed them and took them away from the other kids. They're like, okay, you guys are ready to go on the hill. Other kids are like still trying to stand up. And I look over, I see my 5-year-old zipping down the hill by himself. I was like, well, that didn't take much. And so I took my oldest son, who's 9, and he's never skied before. And I was like, well, let's go up the chairlift. We'll teach you. And I mean, he rides a skateboard and he can wakeboard and water ski. I was like, so how hard could this be? And literally he fell once on his first run. And then by run 3, he's like, when do we get to go to the harder hill? And that was all she wrote. And he was a skier. And he was just, the look on his face was priceless, because now he's like, I can't believe it. I'm a skier now. I was like, yeah, you are. You went way too fast for what I was comfortable for. And yeah, had to yell at him a couple times to chill out. But so we had an interesting thing happen. So we had I skied with my 9-year-old the entire afternoon. It was great. And he, of course, is begging me, just one more time. So after like 15 one more times, finally I was like, okay, I'm done. I hadn't eaten all day. And he said, Daddy, just let me go one time by myself. I know where to go. I'll meet you at the bottom of the hill. And you ever had this voice in your head that says, okay, don't do that. Stop. And then your body's like, yeah, I think I should do that. And your brain's like, no, I told you. So I was having that. And my brain was like, do not let him go by himself. I was like, yeah, okay, you can do one more. I'm going to go put my skis away. And so he jumped on, off he went on the chairlift. And a couple minutes later, I was just kind of standing there hanging out, waiting for him. And I heard this loud boom, this like a mini explosion. And I whipped around and looked at the ski lift machine thing. And all I saw were these flames and giant sparks come flying out of the top of it.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, it's not supposed to happen. Like on a ski lift? What the heck? What the heck is going on? And next thing you know, you hear the people that work in there are yelling and screaming, and it comes to a stop. And at that point, I went into full dad panic mode because I kind of did the math, and I was like, he's going to be at the highest point, at the farthest point from here. And so I sprinted out of there. I ran downstairs. I had to take off my ski boots, and I had to trade them for some boots. And so I could run up the hill, because I was like, I don't know what the heck is going to go on here, but I don't know. The parent kicked over, and somebody's like, why don't you take the T-bar? I was like, I don't know. Like parent panic tunnel vision. I was like, just get to my kid. So I went downstairs, and by this time, all these people that work there come flying by me, which is never a great sign. And, people are descending on this thing and running by. I put these boots on and I start going up the hill, and security starts chasing me. They're like, you can't go up there. You can't go up there. I said, sir, I know you're trying to do your job, but I'm going to tell you what, right now, my kid is up there by himself, and you're going to have to shoot me with that gun on your hip right now if you think that I'm not going up that hill. So I said, if you're going to shoot me, do it now. And I maybe put a couple of expletives in there, not necessarily directed at him or the emotion of the situation. But anyway, and he's like, okay, hang on a second. So he grabs these two poor guys, these two poor guys from the Philippines, okay, that work there. These guys aren't built for trekking up the snow. I mean, the Philippines is like hot, steamy weather. And I was like, okay, guys, let's go. And I go trekking up the hill. And a couple seconds later, I realize there's nobody with me. And I turn and look, and they're about 70 yards behind me on the hill, doubled over. Like, it's okay, sir. Go without us, sir. It's okay. We'll catch up. We'll catch up to you. I was like, all right, guys. And so I go hauling butt up the hill, and I got to my son. And by this point, he's, obviously crying, and he's scared. And of course, he was at the highest possible point. And I'm like, okay, the chairlift blew up. What in the crap? Are they going to lower a fireman out of the ceiling and push him off and land him in a safety net? Like, what the heck is going to happen? What are they going to do? And so we sat there for probably another 15, 20 minutes, and they must have had some manual override thing or something where they had to, and it just started moving incredibly slow. And then once that happened, he was able to get left off at the top of the hill and gave me one of the longest hugs he's ever given me, because he was pretty freaked out, and so was I. So it was a happy dad moment. And he's like, okay, Dad, I'll see you at the bottom. And then he grabs his poles, jumps in the skis, and boom, he was gone. And I was just like, you turd, I just spent 45 minutes consoling and comforting you, and he's
Thanks,
gone.
Dad, bye.
But he passed the Filipino guys on the way down.
Yeah. they were pretty much in the same exact spot that I left them when I went down. They're like, oh, sir, you got your son. I was like, yeah, he's fine.
We're good, thanks. You guys go down.
Like, where is he? I was like, he went by about 8 minutes ago. So he's down at the bottom of the hill waiting for me. So you know what? Yeah. Worst case scenario, nobody got hurt. And the folks, if anybody at Ski Dubai hears this, they handled it so well, and they were on top of it. And, I don't know what happened, but they shut it down, obviously, for safety reasons, and people just used the other portions of it. And as far as I know, everybody had a good day. But would I go to Ski Dubai again? Absolutely. We had a blast. So one of the cooler things that I can say I've ever done, and I just wasn't expecting that. And then, yeah, the rest of the time we just hung out, swam in the pool. It was nice to have beer, and UAE's a good place. People are awesome, and the weather in the Middle East in March, you cannot beat it. It's fantastic. For us and our vacation needs, it was the right fit.
The Right Fit by Greg Lemoine. Order now, Amazon.com.
Well, let me fit something in there if you're talking about fits, guys. Thank you. I don't have a spring break story, but your story, Matt, reminds me, and I always have to tell stories too, but let me tell you a quick story about skiing Middle East, because like you, I did not expect to see an indoor ski hill in the middle of the desert like it is in Dubai. It's fantastic. So here's my little, I'll whittle it down and tell a little bit faster than I usually tell it, but back in, I want to say 2004 or 2005, when I was teaching in Egypt. And my buddy Mooney and I decided to go to Beirut for the Christmas vacation. And we were only there for about 5 days. And the last thing that I would ever think of, Matt, what do you think is the last thing I'd ever think I'd be doing on vacation in Beirut?
Skiing.
Yeah, funny you should mention it. So we're sitting at our hotel and we're like asking the concierge, what should we do? You know, it's just the two of us. And the guy says, well, you could always go skiing. And I'm like, whatever, dude. I mean, seriously, what can we do in Beirut? And the guy's like, no, you can go skiing. And I said, are you kidding? It turns out that they have the mountains above Beirut. They have the mountain line that has all of the big pine trees, which are on their feature on their flag.
Cedar.
Excuse me, cedar.
Cedar.
Thank you very much, cedar.
You're welcome.
So there's this place called Faraya, and it's a ski resort in Beirut up in the mountains. It's about an hour by any normal car, and we figured, we're real close. So we said, okay, the bus, we signed up for it. It's a day thing. So we said, what? Fine. We'll rent skis and we'll do everything else. Like, I don't have any ski clothes. I don't have anything. I had a pair of jeans, a T-shirt, and a leather jacket, and tennis shoes. I don't know. So anyway, Mooney had about the same. We meet the bus at 9 o'clock in the morning. It turns out it's not just a bus from our hotel to the ski lodge. It turned out to be a ski bus that goes around to every single other hotel that might take a skier up to the ski hill. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, long story short, we got up there by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we had to go through a little bit of a army checkpoint and bribes and all this other kind of stuff. But we get up to the hill, and I am so excited about skiing in the middle of wintertime, which is just barely 2 degrees above freezing up there. We're in the desert. You can see patches of sand and a whole lot of snow. I see a chairlift. We got rental equipment. The guy said, how about this? How about this? And I'm like, I don't care, man. The guy wants us back to the bus by 3 o'clock. We have to rent skis and go skiing within 2 hours to get back to the bus.
Sure.
So I grabbed what I'm like, whatever. I stepped in a pair of boots and a skis. I don't know if they even fit. No gloves, nothing. Give me 2 poles. Fine. Not even matching poles. 2 different skis. Boom. We're in line in 10 minutes. The problem is we're all in this huge rush, and we get there and we get in line, and there are women in abayas without skis standing in front of us in line. Now, Kent asked me why they were standing there in line.
Why were they standing there in line?
Because in the Middle East, there's not a whole lot of skiing, and everybody wanted to go have tea at the top of the mountain. So there's this ski lodge at the top where the main chairlift goes up, and then there's another chairlift that goes off to the right. So there are 2 main chairlifts, that's it. But everybody, all these families are lined up trying to get up there to go to the top and have tea. So I'm waiting, and if you have people on foot, it's not a really fast chairlift either, because it has to slow down all the way for the little lady in the abaya to sit down, or 4 ladies to sit down on the bench. They're not just sliding on with a pair of skis, right? So it doesn't just slow down, it slows down all the way and stops. So we had 2 runs, I think. We got to the top. I remember we went around to the left, and Paul just shoots down the hill. There's this V. It's like it goes off in 2 directions, and he went right through the middle. He just goes flying through the middle, and he lands, and it's a total garage sale. His skis are all over the place. It was fantastic to watch. We had a great time skiing, and we're done at 3 o'clock. And I tell you what, I didn't want to fall at all. I didn't want to do a garage sale myself, because there are patches of sand and rocks, because it was melting. It was just above freezing. So the sun's out.
Sure.
I'll never forget seeing people going down the chairlift, right? Because the women are getting off the chairlift down at the bottom after having their tea at the top. That's my story, man. Skiing in Beirut was the weirdest. It was the most, I almost want to say, transcendental experience. It was just so weird to be skiing in Beirut, of all places. Can you imagine your kids having that discussion later on? They'll be Minnesota, they'll be in Michigan, wherever, skiing in Colorado when they're older.
Sure.
And they have that discussion about when they first learned how to ski. And one of your sons will be like, yeah, I learned in Dubai.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to be like, what? Dubai?
We're talking about going actually skiing in out by Beirut at Christmas next year. So
Fantastic.
yeah, I think I have some Lebanese friends here who were telling me about it, and they're like, yeah, it's awesome. It's great. It's cheap. It's an hour and a half out of the city. You got to do it.
It's worth it.
I do have one question, Greg.
I have one answer.
Yeah, your ski boots, were they the right fit?
The Right Fit by Greg Lemoine. Available at Amazon.com.
Get your copy now.
I love you guys. You're amazing.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, I love it.
How long have we been talking? I feel like we've been talking for an hour and a half.
We have
It's
been
an hour and a half,
online for
yes.
an hour and a half. We've only recorded about an hour of that. So we're getting close. Kent, do you have anything to add? Any more stories or anything before we're not doing cop stories this time. We're doing ski stories.
I was in Scotland. Well, listen, I was in Scotland during one of our breaks in October.
That's golfing. That's golfing, Kent.
We go up, we start at the bottom of the hill, and it's a 75-degree beautiful day. I hate chairlifts. I hate heights. When you told me your boy was stuck on that chair, I'm like, oh, God, just kill me now, because I couldn't handle it. My wife wants to go up. We're with the tour group. Everyone else is going up, so I get on the chair and ride up. We're not skiing. We're just riding up to have tea with all those ladies in Albayas. And by the time we get halfway up, it turns into a storm. It clouds up like a Stephen King movie, and it starts hailing on us. It's windy. I got shorts and Birkenstocks on because it was summer at the bottom of the hill. So needless to say, I was scared and miserable and cold. But the whiskey at the top of the hill did make it better.
Sounds like a true Scottish experience.
I love Scotland. Go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But
I would love to go.
I hate heights. I hate chairlifts.
I like the way you weave all those stories together. You did a nice weaving there.
You know, experts say it's not it's not the fear of falling. It's the fear of wanting to jump, I think, is what really scares people.
I thought it was the fear of the landing.
No, the fear of the falling, I think, is substantial enough.
The falling is okay, fair.
Yeah.
Oh, I like falling. I just don't want to land. And that was Scotland, you said.
That was Scotland. Love
The
Scotland.
first thing I thought, was not like ski story. You're talking Scotland. Like, really, they must have skiing there. Do they have skiing there?
If they got a chairlift, it must. I mean,
Well,
they
don't have to have skiing with a chairlift. I mean, just take, Beirut. They don't
It
just
must
ski.
have skiing.
It's tea time.
It must.
If you're from Scotland and you're listening to this, we need your help. We need
your help.
Is there skiing
Right
in Scotland?
When Matt does the Scottish accent, it sounds like that little Scottish guy that golfs with Bugs Bunny in that episode where they're on the golf course together. It sounds so funny and so much alike.
Never seen that. I'm going to check that out. It's funny. My current class, I have 3 Scottish kids in there. Technically, I have 2 Scottish kids, and then I have one who denounces Scotland and says he's from the UK, and the others are like, "You're Scottish and you nut," and then all of a sudden it gets into this go between. Don't be a right numpty. And they just go after each other. And I'm like, I'll allow this because it's just entertaining to watch.
Yeah. So, middle school entertainment.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. You want to be entertained. You need Scottish kids in your class. They are I love it.
That's fantastic.
Well, that's one of the great things about our schools here, right? 45 different countries. You never know what you're going to get. It's awesome.
You're gonna get.
Yeah, it's the best, man.
So Scottish kids, Irish kids, if you're listening to this episode, you need to get some Irish kids or some Scottish kids in your classroom, right? You have to. I haven't had them in a while, but at least not with the accents in a while.
All right, gentlemen, should we wrap this one up and let our listeners go on about their day?
I think it's time.
Are you gonna do a little bit of advertising to leave us with, Matt?
I just don't know if it's the right fit to do at
The
this
Right
moment.
Fit by Greg Lemoine.
I'm sure we could
Order Amazon.com.
All right, guys. I think we need to wrap this up then.
Order yours today.
Thank you for listening to this crazy episode. Don't forget to buy your book on Amazon and go skiing in Dubai and go hang out in Bahrain someday with the Navy guys and Kent and his
definitely
wife,
check
Carla.
out Beirut and the ski scene there too.
And go skiing in Beirut. So I'd like to thank Matt and Kent. We've had a great time. So
Kent the Cat Guy, thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
And Greg,
absolutely,
the
this
single
was
guy,
the best birthday threesome I've ever been a part of. Thanks, guys. This was
Matt,
awesome.
It's my
The
first,
family guy.
so I don't know. We'll find out.
All right, we'll see you all next episode, right? Matt, give us away.
Yeah, if you want to hit us up and give us a shout to us at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Or we're also on the Instagram at ITP Expats. We would love to hear anything you have to say. And this is Matt, the Family Guy, signing off.
Kent, the Cat Guy.
And Greg, the Single Guy. See you next episode. Thank you, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Nice job, boys.